For those of you who are looking to rent rooms or apartments on Facebook, be careful. There is a scam you must be aware of. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur. Welcome to my channel, and today we are going to talk about a Facebook scam involving a apartment renting app called Rently. Now, before we go any further, I want to stress something. Rently, the app and the company, is not in and of itself a scam, nor is the company illegitimate. It is a very legitimate company from everything that I have read. However, it is being used for illegitimate means. Now, what is Rently? Well, Rently is an app-based rental app where you get like a little box with a keypad number. You can list your rooms or apartments. It's usually apartments on this app. People can come, you give them a code, they punch it in, they take the key, they go inside, they look around, and then they decide whether or not they want to rent that apartment or not from you. If the answer is no, they just put it back in the lock, and that's that. And if it's yes, well, they probably still put it back in the lock box, but then paperwork is officially drawn out. And what's convenient about the app is that there's little maps, so you can see where on the map the apartment is, everything like that. So in many ways, Rently is kind of an ingenious little app, and it's useful, especially if you are a landlord and you have a bunch of apartments to rent and you don't want to go to every single individual one. And for even the customers using it, the potential tenants, if you will, they can just show up at the place, look at it, and they don't have to basically feel pressured to apply for that apartment. So, there are some really good things about this Rently app. Unfortunately, scammers have found a way to, of course, attempt to rip people off. Now then, anyone who has tried renting a room from Facebook knows that there are a lot of very questionable listings, and you really have to be careful on Facebook because you see some great listing for this wonderful place you want to rent. You reach out and then they give you the whole spiel about how they're out of town and they want to make sure the place is well taken care of. And hey, you send them money and they will send you the key. You got to be very careful. These are scams that have been, discussed on YouTube. And if you are looking for a place to rent, I definitely recommend you check out other videos. But I want to talk about this one because this one does not seem to be getting a lot of attention. So what they do is they post this listing on Facebook or Craigslist, one of the social media sites. And then after you contact them, they give you a phone number and here, text us here. Now, what's important to know is that these people typically will not answer the phone. They will not talk to you on the phone. And most of the time, their voicemails have not been set up. So that's always a red flag. But here's what they do. They text you, what are you looking for? They ask you a few questions and they say, well, why don't you look at the apartment? It's ready to move in. Here's the address. Go to this place with the lockbox. So you go to the address, and when they say confidently, go to the lockbox, it's right there. That sounds pretty confident. That's definitely a step above, well, hey, I'm out of town on things like this. You sound like a great tenant. Just send me $700 or whatever, and I'll mail you the key. So this sounds like a step above. You actually have somewhere to go, and you have a lockbox. And when you go to this location, you will see, hey, sure enough, there is a lockbox on the door. And then there'll be like a little dial pad. And so at that point, you message them, and it's like, oh, yeah, here's the code number to get into the lockbox. Now, this is unfortunately where the scam really takes place. What this person was doing is they were on the Rently app. They knew that there was an apartment for rent there. They knew that there would be a lockbox there. They don't actually know what the lockbox code is, though. So they just send you over there. And when the code you put in doesn't work, then they say, oh, I'm sorry. There must be something wrong with the lockbox. We will call Rently, or, they'll say something like, we'll get it fixed. In the meantime, though, you sound like good people, and if you really want to see this place, you have to confirm that you want it, and you have to send a holding deposit so that we can take this off the market. But at that point, of course, you weren't able to open the lockbox. That should be a big concern, but again, everything looks pretty okay from the get-go, like, hey, they were right about the lockbox being there, they were right about the apartment being up for rent, so why wouldn't I trust them now? Unfortunately, this is where they pull their scam, because they never had access to the lockbox and it wasn't their place to rent out. So they basically say, okay, we made it look as real as we can, now let's turn the pressure up. It's like, hey, look, you like this place, you want it, send us a deposit to hold the place, or else we're going to move on to the next person. This is always how they do this. Now, here's how you really know it's a scam. You say, hey, I need to be able to look into the apartment before I make that commitment, and by the way, I want to talk to you on the phone. I want to talk to you, not text. At this point, the texting will usually stop because we've gotten to the point where they realize the jig is up. They're not from America. They don't have this thing. They're probably some foreigner in another country that is trying to rip you off. And look, it's a shame that it happens, but scammers will use whatever tools necessary they have to try to scam you. And while you should always be extra diligent on Facebook, this new Rently variable, if you will, has now made it even more easy for some of these scammers to sound convincing. They know where the address is, they send you to see it, they have a lockbox, they know that that lockbox is going to be there. It really sounds like they know what you're doing, but then of course once you can't get into the lockbox, that's when they turn the pressure up. Well, sorry, there's a mistake, we'll try to get it fixed. In the meantime, send us a deposit to hold this place, otherwise we got to move on to the next person. And some people might have gotten to the point where they don't realize how this trick works. They think, oh, well, he knew this much, maybe this is the real person. There really is a problem, when the reality is they never had access to that lockbox or that apartment. They just downloaded this app, looked it up, and they knew the instructions to give you to make it seem like they were legitimate. So there's some advice from the Apptrepreneur. If you are looking for a place to live, don't fall for this scam. And again, I want to reiterate, Rently themselves is a legitimate company, but the way the app is being used in a way to scam people, and that's what you need to keep an eye out for. But that's my story. Have any of you had this issue? I'd love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.